And the side panels on each side have what I'm about to tell you today. And that is the dangers of soft drinks. And, they always call things by what they are not. And these things are certainly not soft on your body. Well, I guess maybe they are. They're hard on your body because they soften up your teeth, they soften up your bones, and as we're going to find out, they soften up the protein in your body. They actually dissolve you. So poisons in soft drinks, and I'm going to read a lot of this because it's very condensed, and it's all down on these two side panels, and I can't do it much better than I've done it, and John doesn't want me to run over, so I'm going to do it short. First thing that is bad about soft drinks is phosphoric acid. Now, what is phosphoric acid? That is phosphorus dissolved in sulfuric acid. Did you know that? And that is why, it dissolves you. If you don't believe that, and we have a dentist here. I don't know if you've done this or not, Doc. You take a tooth, and one that's been extracted, tie a string around it, suspend it in a bottle of Coke, and come back in a few days and see what's there. Nothing but the string. It dissolves it. So phosphoric acid is made by dissolving phosphate with sulfuric acid. This dissolving of minerals continues inside your body, especially with calcium. It leaches out minerals. It combines with sugar to give it a 1-2 punch because sugar does the same thing. Phosphoric acid adversely affects minerals which are necessary to form protein. Remember I told you that it dissolves you? And when do we need the most protein? When we're growing up. And who wants the most of these phosphoric acid laden drinks? It's the kids, right? When minerals no longer function in the action of enzymes, it results in the reduction of body protein. That's how it acts. This slowly kills the life principle. You're committing suicide on the installment plan. It can cause, listen to this, brain fog, nervous prostration, physical apathy, mental irregularities, acidosis, kidney lesions, faulty calcification, for instance, painful bone spurs. You know what we give you for painful bone spurs? What is a bone spur? It's an abnormal growth of bone, isn't it? When you get a bruise on a bone, we give you more calcium. Yes, we give you calcium, but we give you biologically activated calcium that has been plant-derived. And we don't even give it to you in a calcium form. We give it to you in a silica form. And the body just says, oh, I'm so glad to get that. And it replaces that bone spur with good calcium. The silica is biologically transmuted into calcium. Now, that's not a scientific statement, but it's truly, it is true, and we've done it many times. Rickets, osteoporosis, Dowager's hump, weak hip joints. They say he fell and broke his hip. No, he didn't. His hip broke and he fell. And prevent normal increases in the size of growing children. So, would you like the real thing? Now, where do we get all this information? Is this just Charlie Morton spouting off up here? No. The references are the Lee Foundation for Nutritional Research, Journal of Nutrition, 1949, volume 39, page 313. And the Office of Naval Research, Professor Oliver McKay of Cornell University. The only thing I can say good about soft drinks is that it's real good if you've got a nut and a bolt and you can't get them apart. It'll dissolve the rust. Another thing it's real good for is if you're out and it's raining, it started to rain, it hadn't rained in a while, and you got a lot of this residue on your windshield, the windshield wipers are just smearing it around, get some Coke and shake it up, and it'll just right across that windshield, and it'll just go, whoom. I mean, it's clean on the first stroke. It just whips it right off of there. All right, then the other thing it has in it is coloring and flavors. Artificial coloring and flavors contained in the cola drinks. What do you think they're made out of? Coal tar, from which they get chemicals. You know what a cracking tower is? You go along these chemical companies and you'll see these towers going up, way up in the air. They're thin, but they got pipes coming off. Well, down in the bottom, they're boiling coal tar. They're boiling oil. And as it boils, these vapors go up. And some vapors will go up only maybe 10 feet. Some will go up 15 feet. Some will go 20 feet. And then you'll see pipes coming off to the side. Those are called cracking towers. And the reason they're calling cracking towers is that's what the name is for cracking that chemical and boiling off certain chemicals at certain levels. And as they were doing that, they noticed this one smells like vanilla, this one smells like strawberries, and this one smells like chocolate. And so pretty soon, they had artificial flavorings. And look at this one up here. It's red, and this one's yellow, and that one's green. Well, now we've got artificial colorings. And it all comes out of oil and coal tar, and it's very, very poisonous. And the reference for this is, again, Martindale Pharmacopoeia, London, 1989, and the Handbook of Toxic and Hazardous Chemicals and Carcinogens, second edition, Princeton University. Yeah, it's the real thing. Now, sugar. They've got pure sugar. Now, that word pure always confounded me. I thought, well, you want things to be pure. We want to lead pure lives. We want to be pure people. Pure sounds good to me. Well, it's not good in food. Woe unto them that calleth good evil and evil good. But they put pure sugar on there, and our Creator never gave us any pure sugar. When He gave us honey, it's not pure sugar. When He gives us sugar cane, it's not pure sugar. When He gives us sorghum, it's not pure sugar. It's always blended with minerals. But pure sugar has all the minerals taken away from it. There's a text in the Bible that says, what Yahweh has put together, let no man part asunder. We apply that just to the marriage. But it applies to food. What He has put together, if we take it and part it asunder, and that's what happens in these food factories. They rip things apart, and that's what happens in the drug industry is when they rip things apart and they take the active ingredient out of the herb, and now they can get a patent on it and charge you a big price. And then, of course, they turn right around and condemn the herb from which they got it, because that's competition. That's true. Pure sugar does not exist in nature. And it has an affinity for calcium. Calcium and sugar just, boom, go together just like that. Now, what's the first thing that happens when you put sugar in your mouth? Teeth, calcium. And then it destroys the myelin sheath around the nerves. It destroys the bones. It causes you to shrink. I can remember my grandma. I loved my grandmother in West Virginia. And I lived with her for a year. It was one of the finest years of my life that I remember. I had so much fun with Grandma. She'd say, "Come on, Charles, let's wrestle." So I loved Grandma. And if I didn't come home on time at night, she would wait for me out beside the barn or someplace with a big sheet over her head, and I knew she was going to do it, and it'd still scare me. And she'd jump out if I came home, at dusk and scare me and chase me all the way to the house and just scare the daylights out of me. I had a great time with Grandma. But Grandma, I noticed something funny about her. It seemed like years later after that, I'd always, when I was an adult, I'd every year vacation go see Grandma and Grandpa. And Grandma got shorter every year. And I said, "Grandma," I says, "you'll never die." She said, "Well, really, why not?" I said, "Well, the big wind going to come up and just blow you away." I said, "You're getting smaller all the time." I said, "You better keep rocks in your pocket." So, but anyway, I want to tell you that Grandma had the best apple butter there was. And nobody could figure out why. And I said, "Grandma, you got to tell me your secret for your apple butter before you die." She says, "Well, Charles, I'll tell you." She says, "Every Christmas," she says, "you know how they have these candy canes, that striped candy for sale?" I said, yeah. She said, I always buy up a big store of it. And I wait for the apple butter season, and I get it out, and I melt it in the apple butter. Well, she loves sugar. So she was getting smaller every year, Dowager's hump, you know. I would admire her. They took her in the hospital. They were going to cut her leg off. And she says, oh, okay, all right, yes, and signed everything. Going to do it the next morning. She got up at 2 o'clock in the morning and left. They've never seen her since. And when she died, like 10 or 15 years later, she still had that leg on that they said had to come off. Over here, I have the bittersweet truth about NutraSweet, or aspartame. And here are the synthesized components of NutraSweet equal aspartame. They are toxic and harmful to the body. Aspartic acid is a neurotoxin. You know what that is? Similar to glutamate, as in GMSO. Did you know it was in there? Which was removed from baby food in the 1970s. The reason it was removed from the baby food is because the baby's brain is developing. You know, the brain doesn't stop developing until you're about 30. It is a neurotoxin and known cause of endocrine disorders, brain tumors, death of brain cells, and is especially hazardous to the developing central nervous system of a fetus, babies, and young people. Some believe that the frontal lobe of the brain is not fully developed until around age 30. And I have read that many, many times. And I thought, well, you know, what is mentioned about the age 30 in the Bible? Do you know you couldn't become a priest until you were 30? And why was that? Because the frontal lobe of your brain wasn't fully developed. I think it's significant.